Ah, don't want you to see that early. Earl, if I could talk to you and Roddy for just a little while after services, I'd appreciate it. What's that? Ah, I didn't catch on. All right, prayer requests. Okay. Okay. So that was your brother, right? Cousin. Okay, so Patty's cousin that has been ill, been in the nursing home, passed. Okay. That's a funny expression, isn't it? Passed. Okay. Really? Rita bronchitis. Okay. And I saw a hand over here. Yes. Okay. You'll see how that's a very appropriate prayer topic for tonight in just a little bit. What other requests? Somebody tell me about Scott and Kenna. Okay. Okay. Climbing up the wellness ladder a little bit at a time. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Again? Strength. Okay. I'm getting old. I don't have very good ears. It's funny, for all this time I've thought that I had bad hearing, and I finally went to the doctor and he tested my ears and he says, "You've got better hearing than most people half your age." And that was a long time ago. So I don't have any excuses, I just don't listen. Selective hearing? Yeah, and I've got a condition where when Charlotte says something, I hear what she says, but I turn it into something that's similar to that I think is funny, and it's not funny. She says. So, yeah, I need prayers for that myself. And Roddy, if you could spend just a few minutes with me when we get done tonight, I'd appreciate it. All right. Any prayer requests? All right. Ann Thurman's, it did go well. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't need any more physical conditions. Ann Thurman's heart stent went well. Okay. Pardon me? Which hospital was that? Do you know? Okay. Wade, you're a mess. But you're correct. I can remember going through that phase. All right, let's have a prayer, and then we'll start a new topic tonight. Father, as we come before you tonight, we're mindful of what a great and wonderful God that we have. And we see the wisdom that you have in everything around us, the beauty, just the way things are made, the way things are organized. As we discuss tonight, we trust you wholeheartedly that what you want is what's best for us, in spite of what we want at times. And we thank you for the good things that are going on here at Crosstown. We thank you for our brothers and sisters that have been baptized recently, and we ask that you be with them in a special way and help us to show them your love and to help them to get to know your word better, to study, to be a part of our Bible classes, to come to our worship service, and to just be a part of the family in every way. We're sorry for those in our membership and those that we know that have lost loved ones and are mourning, and we just ask that they be comforted. We know of several that are ill, Rita and Scott and Kenna. We are thankful that Kenna is doing better. We thank you, we praise you for Ann Thurman's procedure going well. And we ask special blessings tonight for those that need strength within our congregation and those that we know and love. We ask your blessings on our leaders, on our country, on our military, on our first responders, on Israel. We just pray that you watch over our nation and help us to be the nation you would want us to be. Help our leaders to be wise and make good decisions. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. Okay, kind of a controversial topic again. Not difficult questions. The questions are easy. The answers are what's hard. So, what does the Bible say about war? In doing study for this, does anyone know what Reddit is? Okay. I don't really understand social media. I suspect it's some form of social media because whenever I do a search, I come up with Reddit responses quite a bit. And I've found out that it is opinion, opinion, opinion. And as I was doing some research, one of the things that came up was, how can God, in effect, put his stamp of approval on genocide? Now, that is a lesson in itself. As a matter of fact, it is a lesson in itself, and it is down the road a ways. I don't know whether I'll get to it or not because I'm a little bit slow. But the argument that this person made was so lame. They really thought that they had Christians right where they wanted them because it sounded so bad that God would want people to murder other people. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. And then we're going to add to that law enforcement, which I think is another very important topic, similar Not exactly the same, but similar. Okay, there is a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Whoops. I thought I had this other verse on there too. Okay, that is Ecclesiastes 3:8, as well as is that Beatles? Beatles song? I can't remember. Anyway, Exodus 20:13. I'll just give you a clue. If you want to look it up, please do. Make sure that I do and say things correctly. It's a big part of Bible study, especially in a group like this. Keep me on task. Keep me from saying something that somebody out there in the world would come back and say, "Oh, those Christians, they are just lying. Did you hear that Tom guy, what he said? It was wrong." Okay, Exodus 20:13. You shall not, and finish that. I heard a couple answers. What? What'd you say back there? Kill? I heard murder. And what did you say? Murder. Okay. I think we have a difference of opinion here. Is it murder or is it kill? Is it the same thing? Well, let's look a little bit further and see. Is there a contradiction between Ecclesiastes 3 and Exodus 20:13, which commands us not to murder, kill, take someone else's life? Did I see someone raise their hand? No? Okay. Is there a contradiction here? Okay. Yes. Again, all things in context, right? Yes. Thank you. Many people make the mistake of reading the Bible and then say that Exodus 20, say that in Exodus 20, that they are that they seek to apply that to war. Okay. Some people out here are saying, what is this guy saying? Of course this applies to war. Okay. The Hebrew word, and I don't want to take anything for granted. Everybody has been a Christian for a while, but why do we always bring up Hebrew and Greek? Okay, Hebrew. What part of the Bible was written in Hebrew? The Old Testament. What part of the Bible was, oh well, that's a trick question. What part of the Bible was written in Greek? Okay. Now, I didn't know that. I'm going to have to check you on that. And actually, am I right, scholars, that the original Hebrew Bible was translated into Greek because that was the language of the day, and I'm talking about the time before Jesus actually came, but the New Testament was written in Greek. That was the language of the time. So the point I'm trying to make here is I'm going to tell you from my studies what the Hebrew translation of the Hebrew word means, and that's why I want to make it clear that we're talking about a Hebrew word from the Old Testament. So the Hebrew word used for kill literally means the intentional, premeditated killing of another person. Okay, now there we use the word killing, okay? So, killing with malice. And then here we go, murder. So, I want to make a clear distinction. Can anyone help me with a clear distinction between killing and murder? Yes? I don't know how we get by without Wade. Wade, I'm gonna put off your statement, a very good statement, because we're going to cover that later. Okay? As a teacher, I hate it when as a student, I hate it when people do that to me. But it'll make more sense what you said when we cover it in detail later. Okay? Yes. Okay. A mistranslation, if our Bibles say in Exodus 20, thou shalt not kill. And I suspect that NIV says, thou shalt not kill. So, the difference between the two is killing is not good, murder is certainly bad. And we come to this definition here. This makes it so clear to me. Intentional, first of all. Not that accidental murder, killing is good, but intentional, that's a whole level up, way up there. Intentional, premeditated, even worse. Killing of another person with malice, okay? That's what we're talking about here. Exodus 20:13. Thou shalt not murder someone. Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about what the law says, although we will touch on it a little bit. But it does cover some exceptions, like if somebody accidentally does this, then what is the consequences? There is consequences. If I accidentally kill Keenan, if I accidentally kill his cow, there's consequences. And I'm not going to go into that, but you're right. Okay. Any other comments, questions about this? Okay. Easy answers. No. Difficult answers. Okay, so God often ordered the Israelites, Wade, to go to war with other nations. We all know that. If anybody has read the Bible, they know that's true. Has anybody ever, in the reading of the Old Testament, kind of cringed a little bit and said, ooh, that's harsh. I don't know whether I like that or not. We're going to see some examples of the things that made me cringe. How many people have read the whole Old Testament? Okay. There's some stuff in there that's kind of scary. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at 1 Samuel 15:3. Now go and strike Amalek. Does anybody remember anything about Amalek? Does anybody remember the name? Esau. Okay. Did I get it right? Amalek is a descendant of Esau. So, go and strike the Amalekites. Go strike Amalek, the leader, Amalek, and devote to destruction all that they have. That is a pretty broad statement. Do not spare them, but kill both man, oh my goodness, and woman, and child, and infant, ox and sheep, and camel and donkey, and pigs, especially pigs. That's light humor, not very funny. Okay, so let me put another one up here. This is Joshua 4:13, for those that can't see very well. About 40,000 ready for war passed over before the Lord. Now get that expression, passed before the Lord for battle to the plains of Jericho. Now, what I think this means, and please correct me, that God is approving of this 40,000 soldiers going out to the plains of Jericho. Now, I know you haven't read that whole story, or you have, and you haven't looked it up yet, but this is the start of a battle. Okay? Do you agree that that expression, passed over before the Lord, that would indicate God's approval? Is that stretching things a little bit?
Well, Jericho was prepared to fight Israelites anyway.
Yes.
They wanted to kill the spies. They came in. They were enemies.
Yes. Yes. One of many tribes, one of many peoples. The Amalekites are another group. And we're going to learn not so much about those from Jericho. They were completely obliterated. And let me just go ahead and say something right now. If some of you have a little bit of a queasy stomach about what we've been discussing already, God commanded the Canaanites to be wiped out. Men, women, children, goats, everything. And yet later on in the Bible, we read about Canaanites. We see Canaanites having a role in the Bible after the Israelites came into the Promised Land and were commanded to wipe them out. So there's something about that seems a little bit strange. Either they didn't obey God's command, or there's something about the way that command was given that gave them an out to where they didn't have to kill everybody, because there were slaves that were taken, there were women that were taken, as we find out, that became wives of some of the Israelites, which became a problem. But any comments about that? But I just want to point out in study that you'll find out that the Canaanites were not wiped out, even though it's commanded. Okay, good point. Good point. God's man Moses did a wonderful job, had some problems. Heaven forbid we would have problems. Joshua, another good man, did wonderful things. And once Joshua was gone, Wade is saying that God's people kind of were not doing all that they were supposed to do. Yes? Yes. 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 And that's a good point, that God killed everybody on the earth except 8 people in the flood. God killed, is it 73,000 people in the wilderness because they were not doing what they were supposed to do? He sent serpents into the camp, and a lot of them were bit and were dying, and they raised up this standard of a snake, which I think is the symbol for a doctor today, medicine today. There's a snake wrapped around anyway. And if you were bit, then you wouldn't die. So, yes, God killed people. Yes? Okay. Very good point. A very good point. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat what you said somewhat, and then I'm going to cover it even more later on. God doesn't want His people in amongst those that are evil. And we're going to see that some of these people that the Canaanites were told to kill, not murder, to kill, were exceedingly evil. Yes, Keenan.
Well, there's two ways of looking at this. Number one, it's wrong for you or me to kill someone because I didn't give that right in the first place.
Right.
Okay, so if I say briefly about something, I choose to like those who murder.
Yes.
Okay. God gave life. He's the giver of everybody's life. It's not wrong for God to take something back that He gave conditionally.
Okay, good point.
It's never wrong for God to take life. Somebody says, well, He took my parent or my child. Well, God gave their life. Like Job said, Lord gives and Lord takes away. Blessed be the Lord. God's never wrong. He demands something. You see, the other thing you have to look at is on the other side of death, God is still able to do something with that person in the spirit.
Yes.
Heaven or hell. God is not limited to what we see here on this earth. So, the person that dies in the Lord, whether it's such a good child or a good person or a good parent, well, God may reward that in a way that's far exceeds anything we can imagine.
Okay.
So, God's never wrong to take someone's life because He gave it in the first place. But the second place, after that person dies, Jesus is right at the right hand of God in heaven. You know, we talked about study in Revelation on Sunday about the people that had been beheaded. They were praising God in heaven. So, you can't hold God to the same standard as the Holy Spirit. If He says to do something, if the child is killed or something, God says to take that innocent child and bless that child, and then just forget that. So that you have to look at that. You have to look at death from God's eyes.
Right. And as usual, Keenan, you have so much wisdom whenever you make a comment in class. I'm going to try to repeat some of what you said. And there was one statement that I felt like after you said it, you could just take the mic and drop it because it was so profound. It was like that, God can do whatever He wants to do, and then just drop the mic. And that's true. But we have to look at God killing and men killing from two different perspectives. God gave life. God can take life away. Now, I want to make a point that before I get done with this discussion, I want to talk about how the world would look at that statement that I just made. But it is factually true that God, is the God, and if God gives, He can take away. If God gave us life, He can take that life away. And obviously He has done that. And then the other point that you made is that after somebody is dead, God has the means to do something with that person, either in heaven or in hell. And let's talk about heaven, because that's more fun to talk about. The child that dies, and we mourn that child. We are just. It's just terrible that we have to go through that, but they're not suffering. And God can take that child in heaven and just make everything right, make everything good. Good point. And that goes with everybody, not just with children. Yes?
King David actually made that point when his child
Yes.
by Bathsheba
Yes.
died. He was in such tremendous suffering, sorrow.
And why aren't you upset anymore, King David?
So he knew the child was just fine
Yes.
in the hands of God, and made the statement that I'm going to go see him. He's not coming back here, but I'm going to see that child. So
What a wonderful thing.
there was no reason for him to be in sorrow, because he knew the child was in God's hands.
Yes.
And that wasn't the end of things.
Because what
It didn't end when the child died.
Because what happened to Bathsheba's and King David's child was not that child's fault. And it doesn't really matter one way or the other. That is an innocent child. And King David, who mourned for days, and 3 days, or 6 days, or 100, whatever it was, and then whenever he got up, washed himself, put on new clothes, and they questioned him, well, what we were afraid for you, that you were going to die, and here you are, you're okay now. He says, well, yeah, I'm going to see that son or daughter of mine in heaven. And just think of what a wonderful statement that is, that we can have that kind of joy, that kind of assurance that when we go to heaven, because we know we're going to heaven. And that's a little bit boastful, but that's what being a Christian is all about. I have forgiveness of my sins. I have life eternal with my God. Wonderful. Did I almost represent that? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Now I've got to figure out where I was. Okay, so God ordered the death penalty for numerous crimes. This is going a little bit overboard about God killing people, but one example is found in Exodus 21:12. Exodus 21:12, and then also 15, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And it talks about striking someone and killing them. Okay. I don't know what the background is on that because I can't remember. There is a difference between the accidental striking somebody. You know, if I'm swinging my hammer and Keenan's standing behind me and the head comes off my hammer because I didn't maintain it very well, and it kills him, that's different than if I sneak up behind him and.
So one other thing, not only what we've already discussed, but God is also the one that sustains a person's life.
Okay, explain that. God is who sustains a person's life. Okay, because every day we wake up alive. Okay.
We've been in
Yes.
when it came out. I mean, he's the one, it says, I think Proverbs, escape from death comes from the Lord. I mean, he's the one that sustains our life every day that we're here. So, not only does God do something after this life, he's the one who sustains life. So, we're wrong when we have this blame for him for anything he commands, because he's in complete control
Yes.
at all times.
Yes.
I've seen guys that, I've known guys that were shot one time, I know two officers were shot one time, and he killed him. I know another guy, he shot 7 times, he's preaching now. So, that's God that determines how that's going to come out.
Yes. And there's so many times God sustains us daily. He sustains us in bad situations, good situations, just like you're talking about. Someone being shot once, someone being shot 7 times. This person died, this person didn't die. Great point. Before I forget, if I may, let me follow up on something because I'm going to forget if I don't. The comment I made about what the world, and you raise your hand as soon as I get done with this, what the world would think about what we've been saying so far tonight. I think, without being cruel, I think there are times when the world listens to us, when the world hears what we stand for, and they either don't want to believe it, or there's something in their life that has prejudiced them against God and God's Word, that when they hear something like this, that they're going to think we're bonkers. That, first of all, I don't believe in God. I don't believe that there's anything that can, maintain our life, keep us from dying in bad situations. He's not the one that gives us that breath that wakes us up in the morning. I can understand that. But where I'm going with this statement is that I think we need to be careful that we don't use statements like this exclusively when we're talking to non-Christians, because they're going to laugh in our face, or they're going to be nice enough to us because they're our neighbor or whatever, but they're going to say behind their hand, "Oh, Tom, you are so naive to think that your God is so blah, blah, blah," whatever. So we need to have methods, things to say, things to do that help them to see God for what He is, and then they can take these difficult things, like wiping out a whole tribe, and be able to deal with that too.
Here's the thing that atheists would have problems with. If you say that there is a God, God is, then you have to also say that this God, who says He has complete authority, complete power over creation, over life, death, breath, your lungs, you have to accept that. Once you say, make the assumption there is a God, you have to accept that He is the authority for everything.
Yes.
He's ultimate authority.
Yes.
He is the truth. He is the right.
But we don't get there overnight.
So the atheist would say, well, I don't believe God is right in this situation or that situation. Well, you can't have both ways.
I know.
You can't say, I believe there's a God, and then say, well, I don't believe He was right in this situation, because you're being complicit.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to make good sense when you do that.
Right. And that's the problem behind the arguments of so many agnostics, maybe, atheists for sure, That if they say there is no God, and then that they believe in things that they can't be without.
So if you have murder, then or death of somebody, then you have to say, well, is there good? What it boils down to, is there good and is there evil?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And what's your yardstick for that?
So exactly, that's where I'm going.
Oh.
So if there's evil, then necessarily there had to be an origin of evil.
Yes.
Have to originate somewhere, and then if there's good, there has to be an origin of good.
Right.
I mean, necessarily, philosophically, it has to be that way.
That's right.
So if there's
Logically.
good, if there's good, then where would that good have originated? If there's evil, where would that evil have originated? So you can't tell evil unless you have a standard of good.
That's right.
So you can't. There has to be God. Or nothing else would work. In other words, to say that something. There was a study of, I can't remember the name of it. When we say human being, when we say being, the study of being, say something came from nothing, doesn't even make any kind of logical sense to say, we have all this because there was an explosion and all this thing.
Yes.
Explosion, but you can't explain that.
No.
What exploded?
Yeah. Yeah, what?
Talking about something exploding.
Yeah.
So, what caused the explosion? What are you saying that exploded? See, something cannot come from nothing. That doesn't make sense.
Unless you believe in God. Because God is the something in that case. Yeah. And for the Big Bang Theory to be true, there had to be something to explode. And I wholeheartedly believe in the Big Bang Theory because I think God is the Big Banger.
Well, I don't even believe in it, but the point is, God is the creator. God is the creator. And there had to be being before anything.
There had to be what?
There had to be being
Beings.
before anything. There had to be being. God was the being.
Okay, God. Okay.
He created everything.
Okay. Yes.
Science can't explain.
That's right.
Big Bang theory disappeared.
Right.
It doesn't make logical sense anyway. But what does make sense is there was a being that created what we had. If there was no being that always existed, we couldn't have anything. To say that complex life forms, complex solar systems, gases, stars, all came from an explosion. I've seen many explosions. We saw an explosion at the Burr building in Oklahoma City. There's never been an explosion that created anything.
Right.
Ever.
Chaos.
Created chaos, but never created anything.
Right.
Never made anything.
Right.
So to say, well, this explosion is responsible for all of creation. Really? How did that happen? We never see anything else. That never played out in any other. How? That doesn't make sense.
But you understand that even I admit that I cannot fathom eternity. I cannot fathom a being that was here before anything. And even using was here is the wrong term. God is. That's it.
That's why Jesus said to the Pharisees when he said, before Abraham was,
I am.
I am.
I
He didn't say
am.
was.
That's right.
As if he had a time that he came into existence.
Right.
He said, before Abraham was, I am.
Right.
Jesus has always existed. He says, unto us a child is born, but unto us a child is given. The child is born. The child was, he was given because he's always existed. He came here from heaven.
He was always here.
He was always here.
Yeah. Okay. Good points. Yes, sir. Have you forgotten what you were going to say? Okay. If you're like me, you need to write it down. Everything. From nothing. Right. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Wade. Wait a minute. You said God? I think I'm going to take exception for what you started with, that God destroyed Jerusalem. God may have allowed the Romans to destroy Jerusalem. I would just have to study that and find out what it is that the point you're trying to make there. Yes, okay. Okay. But you recognize that there were a lot of plans that God had that he didn't carry out. God's people didn't do what they were supposed to do, and God allowed the Assyrians, the Babylonians, to come in and take them captive and take them in. Yeah. God didn't do that, but Mom, you keep messing up. The police are going to come get you. I'm going to allow them to do it because you're doing something in your apartment you're not supposed to be doing. And that's what I'm saying is, I'm not going in and arresting Mom. I'm allowing the police to come and take Mom to jail. I'm picking on Mom today. Any other comments? I didn't do anything today, and I still have to sit down. I'm tired. Okay, we've got a few more minutes left, so let me see where I was. Another example of something that God says that you should kill this person: sleeping with your father's wife. Okay. That's in Leviticus 20:11. Write that down, check it out. That's a no-no. So God is not against killing in all circumstances. Just murder. Yes. 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 And I love what Wade said about how after Joshua, the Israelites, they just couldn't seem to get it together, and there were a lot of terrible things that they did. And over again, God allowed them to be punished. And God had a plan for them to go into this promised land, and it had to do with conquering the land. And we're going to look at that. Maybe not in 10 minutes, though. Okay. Yeah, and she's in the lineage of David. That Rahab? I can't remember. You're talking about the woman in the wall at Jericho? Yeah. Isn't she in the lineage of David? I didn't say that. Never mind. I'm getting a yes out there. Okay. Which is another interesting topic again. I mean, if God was not real, if God was not true, if God was not what He says He is, why would He have His word include ridiculous things like there's a prostitute? Well, we assume there's a prostitute. There's these evil people that did terrible things. David, he was adulterous. He killed somebody. He premeditated, murdered somebody, and yet David is held in such high esteem. He's a man after God's own, heart. And whoa, what kind of people are we that we have people like that in our history, in God's history? Wouldn't we have everybody just peachy keen and wonderful? Yeah. Yes, he did. Oh, yes, he did. Consequences again. You scratching? Yes, go ahead. Careful, careful. They may. They may. I didn't copy my dad. As soon as I got a chance, I got off the roof. Okay. But you're right. Yeah, we are influenced by what is around us, and our parents have a real strong influence on us. That's exactly right. And sometimes we don't even know what kind of influence those terrible parents have on these kids years later. And we see that over and over again, and what a shame it is. And then there's some that overcome. And praise God that they're able to overcome the evil in their life, the terrible things that happen to them in their life. Okay, we're getting way off. We're not killing people anymore. We're doing other things. So God is not against killing in all circumstances, just murder. So war is never a good thing. Make that clearly understood. War is never a good thing, but sometimes it is a necessary thing. Give me an example of why you think war is a necessary thing. Sometimes. Protect the country. All right, someone besides Wade. Someone besides Wade. We need to have some other input. To protect our faith, okay, good. Yeah. Yes. We would be in a lot of trouble if we didn't have the right, the ability to protect, on a very basic level, ourselves, our family, our community, our country, yeah, there are times when war is inevitable. Often the only way to keep sinful people from doing great harm to the innocent is by war. And I think that is a good point that is to be made, is that who among us need protection the most? Those that are least able to take and protect themselves, okay? If we don't take care of our children, if we don't take care of our Ima, our mama, our elderly neighbor, if we don't take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, then shame on us. Okay, let's see if we can get into, while you're up there, guess what? My clicker just quit working. Could you advance the slide once?
That's your last slide.
Better not be. Okay, I'll just wing it. Yeah, there's half a dozen more slides. Okay, that's all right. I'll have it for next week. Okay, so let's talk about the Old Testament. We've already hinted a little bit about the Old Testament. Let's get into it a little bit deeper and talk about God ordered the Israelites to do certain things. So, in Numbers 31:2, Numbers 31:2, since we don't have a slide, all the more reason for everybody to write it down and check it out, or pull their Bibles out and look it up. Numbers 31:2. Who were the Midianites? When you were reading through the Old Testament, were they good guys or bad guys? Okay. Well, let me tell you about the Midianites. First of all, 31:2 says, take revenge on the Midianites for the Israelites. Now, I didn't get the full context in that, but I want to tell you about the Midianites. They were Baal worshipers. Does anybody remember anything about Baal? A really bad god. Okay. They had child sacrifices. Nobody's up for that, I'm sure. They had ritual prostitution. The Midianites. God wanted his people to take them out. Deuteronomy 20, 16, and 17. Deuteronomy 20, 16, and 17. However, in the cities of the nations, the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, do not leave alive any breathers. That's kind of an unusual translation. I don't remember which one that is. Don't leave anything alive that has breath. Completely destroy them as the Lord your God has commanded you. Can't be much clearer than that. There's a reason for that. Why would God want his people to go into the land of Canaan, the promised land, and completely obliterate people? Let me tell you about the people that they were to obliterate. The Canaanites practiced incest, child sacrifice, homosexuality, bestiality, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about one of their gods, and I can't remember which one. Maybe it was Baal, I can't remember. But I remember seeing this statue of, and I think we're going to see it in one of the other lessons, of this god that has its arms out like this. And they would take a child. First, they would heat this idol up, and they would take the child and place it on the arms of this. as a sacrifice. That's the kind of people that God did not want his people to be influenced by. You're going to be living in this area. You've chased everybody out because you're such a big army. But guess what? There's some people over here that are doing this nasty, ugly, terrible stuff. And guess what they do when they get a chance? They come over and they influence you. God didn't want that. God didn't want that negative influence. And so he said, wipe them out. Get rid of them. Because I know what kind of people you are. I know that Tom is so kind-hearted, he's not going to kill everybody. He's going to let them live because they said, oh, please don't kill me. And Tom will say, okay, well, if you'll come pick my figs, because I really love figs, then I won't kill you. And then slowly but surely, I marry one of your daughters. And pretty soon, your daughter is putting an idol up in our basement because she doesn't want me to see it at first. And then she brings it up to the top rung of the stairs. And then she brings it into the living room. And then she takes it outside. And all the neighbors say, hey, let's have a Baal party or whatever God it is. That's the kind of step-by-step nose of the camel. Have you ever heard that expression, under the tent? That's the way it happens. The camel doesn't just crash right in. Well, maybe they do. But he gets his nose under the tent first with a little bit of influence and pressure, and then pretty soon he's pushed it up, and now he's in your tent completely. Comments? We're out of time. Questions? We've got another week on this lesson. Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate you.